Right, so here's my USB supercharger. I was having a look around on the net because I was having troubles charging my new 12-inch tablet on the charger that came with it. It was barely charging while I was still using it, and on a good third-party charger, like real high-quality 4.2 amp job, it was actually running down while I was using it. So, what's the go? I'll look on the net and try and find out a bunch of stuff, but yeah, suffice to say, USB charging seems to be a bit of a black art, and there's lots of misinformation and very little actual information to go around. So, I decided what happens if you use 6 volts instead of 5 volts. Again, looking on the net, I see lots of forums with people saying, well, I don't know how USB charging works, but don't do it. No, you can't do it. So yeah, a whole bunch of people who don't know or haven't tried telling people, well, I don't know, but here's my 2 cents anyway. Well, alright. So, long story short, I got myself this 6 volt 5 amp power supply and stuck a heatsink on it. Obviously I found sticking heatsinks on these things cools them down nicely, and obviously makes them last longer. I mean, they often tend to fail pretty quick, and that really does the job well. Anyway, I was using one of these USB doctor things. They're little USB measuring devices that tell you how many amps are going through your USB port and how many volts are coming out. And I noticed that the third-party high-quality charger put out 5.25 volts, which happens to be exactly the USB standard maximum. And the charger that came with the device, lo and behold, it put out 5.6 volts. And obviously that seems to be the reason that it can actually keep it charged, whereas the other one can't. So, anyway, I got this 6 volt jobby here, and I cut the cord off it, measured the voltage at 6.5 volts. Ooh, bit of trepidation there. But anyway, I plodded on ahead and got one of these USB backplane things that you get for PCs, and cut the connect off the end of that, and got the red and black wires coming out of these USB ports. Connected them to the negative and the positive. Positive and negative respectively on the plug pack. And the other thing I did, very important, is to short the 2 data lines, the green and the white wires. Now, shorting the data lines tells the device, or tells the device that's plugged into it, that it's plugged into a dedicated charger that can supply all the current at once. If you don't short those data lines, then it will assume that it's plugged into a standard USB port and will only draw half an amp maximum. So that's very important. Apple and Samsung, they have their own little proprietary standard where it's 2.8 volts on one line and 2 volts on the other line. It tells it that it's plugged into an Apple charger, and that's how Apple does its thing of saying, oh, that's not a proper charger, I won't charge off that, just so they can sell you chargers, not because it can't, but because it won't. Anyway, Apple annoyances aside, Yeah, what are the results? Well, I got, with the normal charger, 5.25 volt maximum, I got 1 amp going into the device. With this charger at 6.5 volts, I got 2.3 amps going into the device. So hugely more power. And also there's a great little app called Ampere on Android that tells you exactly how much the battery is drawing in amps. Note that it actually only tells you what the battery itself is drawing, not the whole device. So that's really handy with one of these USB doctor devices, to see how much is going into your device and how much of that is going into the actual battery. And I found the difference between normal charger, about half an amp going into the battery, and with this charger about 1.5 amp going into the battery. So basically charging 3 times as fast, and that's borne out by my experience with this thing. It absolutely flogs every other charger and is many times faster, like at least twice as fast as any other charger I've ever used. Now, with regards to the, overvoltage, all those people in the forums go, "No, you'll blow your stuff up." Well, I've only had one device actually reject it, and that's a Samsung J1 Mini, I think. And it basically came up with a little exclamation mark sign, and having a closer look, it said overvoltage, and so it seems like they just refuse to charge if they get a bit more voltage than they're expecting. That said, I found that putting a diode in series with the supply and the plug, which drops the voltage by 0.5 volt, allows the Samsung to charge just fine. So I'm going to put a couple of diodes on there with a little switch on there, so that I can turn the voltage back a little bit to allow finicky devices to charge. And they still charge a hell of a lot faster than they do off any normal supplies. And yeah, so that's a go. I've tried it with about 5 devices: a DZ09 smartwatch, a Chewy High 12 tablet, a Chewy High 10 tablet, what is it? Yeah, well, 7-inch phablet thing. Another Chinese, cheap and cheerful jobby. It loves it too. And yeah, all of the devices charged like crazy fast compared to the normal chargers. And the Samsung was the only one that rejected it, and but only if I didn't include a diode. So yeah, like I said, heatsinks are a great way of making your plug pack last longer, and also you can get a lot more power out of a plug pack when you're when you put a heatsink on it. You can get like 5-6 amp out of a 4 amp plug pack, as long as you put heatsinks on it. So this heatsink has like an aluminium plate that goes all the way along there, and yeah, together they work really well to cool this thing down. And yeah, it's a beast. Does an awesome job, and charges literally 2 to 3 times as fast as a normal charger, and without any fancy custom protocols or anything like that. Anyway, I hope someone finds that interesting. Mad Scientist.